I'm going to reveal an industry secret about email scraping that's going to piss a lot of people off. I'm going to be showing you exactly how the pros scrape lead data from all of the top websites and social media platforms, all without ever writing a single line of code. Now, after this masterclass, you're going to be able to cancel all of your subscriptions to any overpriced data brokers like ZoomInfo or Apollo.io. You're going to be able to scrape unlimited leads, unlimited emails from Google Maps, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and yes, even Apollo.io, one of the most popular B2B lead databases in the world. If you can master what I'm about to teach you, then you are never going to have to worry about who to email ever again. And you're going to have a high value skill that you can sell as a service and make absurd amounts of money. First, let's talk about scraping for just a couple minutes, and then I'm going to share my screen and show you step by step how to scrape all of the most popular websites. Then I'm even going to share some secret websites that you can scrape using the same strategy that nobody else is currently doing. Now, let me start off by saying that I am not a developer. I can barely edit the CSS code on my own website. But because I understand how scraping works, I can now understand what can be scraped and what can't be scraped, which is really all you're going to need to know to do what I'm going to teach you. So here's a 60-second crash course. A lot of contact information is already public online. If you go to someone's website, their Google My Business listing, their social media profile, the chance is you're going to find an email address listed somewhere. That email address is now public information that we can scrape and we can use. But coders who are much more talented than me have developed algorithms that systemically clicks through hundreds or even thousands of these sites and scrapes them for that email address as well as other information. So if there's a public email available, someone can figure out how to scrape it. But some websites don't love being scraped, such as Instagram, and they've gone through great lengths to prevent scraping tools. And they do this by monitoring for bot-like activity and preventing certain IP addresses from doing certain actions. Now, this is the reason that not all scraping tools are built equally. And if the algorithm of the scraping bot isn't constantly updated to keep up with the site's changing layouts and countermeasures, then the scraping tool will stop working correctly. So no matter what you're scraping, whether it's Google Maps, Instagram, LinkedIn, that specific scraper needs to be actively managed and updated just about every week. And that's why people have become so frustrated with web scraping and actually pay people so much money to do it. One day it works, the next day it doesn't. But all right, enough of that. Let's have some fun. Now, the platform we're using to scrape every single website that I mentioned and then hundreds more is called Apify. So Apify is actually more like a marketplace where talented developers can build and sell their scraping tools and algorithms that they've already developed. And marketers like you and me can choose the scraper that you want to use and run it through Apify servers using their IP address and their proxies. That keeps you safe and bypasses most of those countermeasures. Now, for those of you thinking that you are never going to have to pay for leads ever again once you watch this video, I'm sorry to say, like most good things, great tools ain't free, but it is insanely cheap, especially when you compare it to all of the other sources for leads like subscriptions to these B2B databases. $50 a month is all you're really going to need to basically scrape unlimited leads from anywhere on the web. Sound good? Are you ready to start scraping? Let me show you how it works. I'm going to share my screen now. $49 a month is going to get you just about everything that you're going to need, unless you're going to be selling scraping as a service. If you're selling these leads and selling scraping services, then you might want to consider the scale and business, but for most people, the starter plan is going to give you everything that you need. But if you want to use Apify for free, you can. They'll give you $5 of free credits every single month. Now, inside of Apify, you're going to see it looks a lot like a marketplace. All of these different apps in the Apify store are built by different developers, and they'll actually build you custom ones if there's something that you need scraped. The amazing thing about this is they all have their own ratings, they all have the amount of people using them, so you can see which ones are popular, which ones are most likely to work, and you can search for them up here or use these categories. I'm going to be walking you through a couple simple ones that I like to use that most of you are probably going to end up using, and showing you just how easy it is and how to scrape most of these top websites, including Apollo.io. You're going to be able to scrape Apollo.io without a paid plan. This is absolutely unbelievable for those of you that know how hard and how expensive this would be. So here's a couple of the actors or scraping bots that I have saved here, and there's a reason that I have these saved. These are the ones where you're probably going to be spending most of your time doing the scraping. Google Maps Scraper. This will actually go through all the local businesses in an area and grab all of their public information. This is very, very useful. Apollo.io for obvious reasons. And then there's a lot of secondary sites that you can think about scraping. For example, if you are a PR firm like we are and you want to work with early stage tech or SaaS startups, a great place to scrape for you might be AppSumo. AppSumo is full of these new tech companies, these new SaaS companies that are trying to get an initial user base. I can scrape emails directly from AppSumo of all of the platforms and websites that are listed on AppSumo. That is an invaluable piece of data that I can get basically for free using this Appify scraping tool. Now, there's a lot of different scraping tools available to you in Appify where you can scrape different social media sites like Instagram and YouTube. I've actually really liked this all-in-one social media scraper because you can choose which social network that you want to scrape, and it will basically cycle through the algorithms that it's already built for that social platform. The ones that I like to scrape for social media are Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Now, if you're selling to course creators, YouTubers, this is a great place to get their emails because those are not publicly available on Apollo.io or Google Maps. The best place to get them is through these social media scrapers. And then, of course, one of the most popular places to get leads is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So you will need an active Sales Navigator account if you want to fully utilize the scraping capabilities of this bot, but you'll essentially be able to get the emails of everybody on LinkedIn with no limits. With as many data as you want to export, you'll be able to do it on Appify's scraping tool. Now, what I also encourage you to do to find those specialty scraping bots, if you want to get unique ideas, is just come into the Appify store, type in email, and then just go through and see what kinds of things that you can scrape. There's a lot of really interesting stuff here. For example, you can scrape emails from TikTok. Maybe you're looking for influencers to work with, TikTokers to work with. This is a great place to start. And then there's some databases that you wouldn't think about scraping otherwise, but here it might give you an idea like, oh, this might actually work. One of those examples is the Yellow Pages. Most people don't think about the Yellow Pages, but it's still very active and there's a lot of good data in here, so why not scrape it? Let's get started. I'm gonna do a scraping example with you so that you can see how easy this is and how it works. Now, each of these bots works a little bit differently, so I do want you to pay attention to the details here. As I do the Google Maps scrape, pay attention to the inputs that I include to get it to actually work correctly. I said you weren't gonna have to write any code, and that is true, but you are gonna have to know how to operate these. And even though they're simple, the smallest little misstep can screw up your entire result. So let's open up this Google Maps scraper. As you're gonna see, there's the input. This is where you actually tell it what to scrape. Then you're gonna see some information. If you ever wanna get some more info on these scrapers before you actually start using them, please come in here and read this. Don't worry about the code down here if you don't know how to read code. It's good to know how frequently these are updated. The more recently they're updated, the better chance this is going to work correctly. So if you come into builds and see that the latest one was finished on 8/16, that was 2 days ago. This thing is a very active scraping tool. It's being kept up to date, and this is shockingly important. When you look at other scrapers that haven't been updated for a year, chances are it's not going to work quite as well. Now, on the left-hand side, you're going to see the inputs, and on the right-hand side, you're going to see something called an automation flow. So what is really cool about Appify is you can schedule this to run once per day, and then you can send all the results into a webhook. You can upload them to a Google Drive. You can have it email you with a CSV file. So all of that is done here on the right-hand side. You can set the schedule, obviously Google Maps scraper, and then you can add an integration such as posting to a webhook. If you're running things like Zapier or Make.com, you can upload those results as a new file in Google Drive, or you can send them to yourself as an email or a Slack notification. You get the picture. There's a lot of ways to process this data once it's done, and you can do it on an automated cycle. So for Google Maps scraping, think about it like a Google search. You're going to want to input a specific keyword for the type of business that you want to scrape. So for example, if I am looking for marketing agencies in Tampa, Florida, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to enter a couple specific keywords for marketing agency. In this case, marketing agency, advertising agency, and you can add multiple search terms to your scrape. The more you add, the more results you're going to get, but try and be as refined as possible. Then you're going to go ahead and add a location for it. This specific scraper likes you to put the city and the country. And if you're not quite sure what to do, most of the good scrapers do a good job telling you exactly how to use it and what inputs to use. This is going to ask how many you want to scrape. So if I want to scrape 1,000, I'm going to enter 1,000 here. It's going to do 1,000 for each search term. And then you're going to want to come down this line and actually get specific with the details of your scrape. If you're not sure what some of this means, go ahead and click on these question mark boxes just to see. Now, I don't want the image author. I don't need any images. I set this at 0. It might default to 1. I recommend making it 0 so that it scrapes faster. Speed is important here, and you only want the data that you're going to use. That's why it's important to go through these and actually make sure that this is data that you need. And if you don't need it, leave it unchecked. Now, what's really cool about scraping Google Maps is that you can extract a lot of information that other people don't use in cold emails. For example, their reviews. This allows you to scrape their reviews from Google Maps, from Google My Business. Then you can use that review in a cold email or in a cold outreach. For my purposes, I'm going to leave this at 0 so that it works faster. And then same thing here. If I wanted to extract questions that people asked and use it in cold outreach, I could do that here. This allows you to get more specific with geolocation parameters. I'm going to leave that blank. You can get more filtered with the review count for that place, how many stars they have on average. And then they're all going to ask you for run options. You want to run on the latest build, and if you want to include a timeout, you can. This is, if it stops working, you kind of want it to stop and not keep trying. That way it doesn't clog up your RAM. So I do usually leave the timeout at default, and if it does time out, you can always just start it back up, and I'll show you how to do that. I'll typically leave the memory at default as well. So you go ahead and save, or save and start. Now from this perspective, I'm inside this run. I'm actually watching it gather data and do its thing. You can sit in here and watch it gather data slowly, but you don't need to. You can get rid of this right now, come into your runs, and see up top here, this is actively running in the background on Appify's servers. And it's going to continue to scrape, and I can actually do other scraping jobs while this works. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Let's come into the all-in-one social media scraper, and let's try and scrape some coaches from Instagram. That sounds like fun. So I'm going to use the keyword business coach. I'm going to leave the location off because most social media platforms actually don't do so well with location. Social network, I'm going to change to Instagram. Email type, I'm going to leave blank so it gets everything. Country, I'm going to do United States. I'm going to leave this blank as well, but you can get hyper targeted with your email types. For example, only allowing popular emails or only getting specific domains. I like to leave these on default so that it gets as much data as possible. Now this is very important, proxy configuration. Anytime you're scraping social media, you should at least be using a residential proxy. Now Appify does give you access to these residential proxies if you have a paid plan. So you're going to go ahead and select residential and then proxy country, United States. If you want a better proxy situation, you're having a hard time scraping a thing like Instagram because they're tough on their IP address rules, you can upload your own proxy, and I would recommend using a mobile proxy to scrape that account. Now I'm glad this came up. Down here it gives me the option to rent the actor, and you didn't see that on the previous one. And the reason for that is all of these scraping bots, all of these actors give you a one-day trial, and then you have to pay the rental fee in order to continue using it. That's going to be listed up here. So $20 per month plus usage. Now, I don't want to pay that right now. So if I want to just scrape Instagram for business coaches, what am I going to do? I'm going to come into store and I'm going to find an Instagram email scraper. This one looks relatively popular, so I'm going to go ahead and use this one. And it's actually cheaper, $10 per month plus usage. And we're going to check that it's being actively updated. July 19th, not too bad. Let's go ahead and try and run this thing and see if it works. So keyword business coach. Let's do a residential proxy in the United States. And when I start it, you're going to get a notification like this. Rent an actor with free trial. I get a one-day free trial. So I'm going to go ahead and rent that actor and start its activity. And now as you can see, it's running. So we have one day to try it out. So even if that one fails, we can move on to the next one and find an Instagram scraper that's working really well for us. Now, as you can see, this thing's already generating results. It's got 6 now, whereas my Google Maps scraper has 73. This thing's gonna run in the background and keep gaining and gating results until I tell it to stop or until it finishes. And this Instagram scraper is actually really quick. It's already at 12, and that's going to be 12 emails of Instagram business coaches. There is nothing else on the internet that makes scraping Instagram emails that easy. Now, in addition to the monthly fee, you'll be charged a usage fee. The usage fee is going to vary. Sometimes it can be quite a bit, but usually it is negligible. This is still under 10 cents for 36 results. That is unbelievably cheap. Next, I'd like to show you LinkedIn Sales Navigator. This is probably where a lot of you are going to do a ton of scraping because you'll essentially be able to scrape unlimited leads for free and get really specific with who you want to scrape. And that's because LinkedIn, you can get really targeted. So let's go ahead and open up my LinkedIn Sales Navigator. If you have Sales Navigator, this does give you a lot more power to scrape LinkedIn. You can use LinkedIn scrapers on here without Sales Navigator. You can come into the store. Let's type in LinkedIn. So there's a lot of LinkedIn scrapers on here that don't require you to have Sales Nav, and you can scrape jobs too. So if you're looking for people who are hiring certain positions, great place to do it. I do recommend getting Sales Navigator. I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you how powerful this is. So let's open up lead filters in Search Navigator. I'm going to quickly run through these, and I'm going to put together some really simple filters that most people use so that you can learn how to actually scrape it. Company headcount, let's go up to 50 employees. We want to go after owner partners. We're going to want to contact owners, partners, decision makers. We're going to be scraping in North America. Now, what's really cool about LinkedIn now, they've got really good buyer intent data. So for example, if I'm selling marketing attribution software or services, I can come in here and find somebody who's looking for marketing attribution software. Now, I usually like to add at least one other layer of filtering, such as industry. So let's say that we're going after lawyers. We're gonna find lawyers, and we've got about 92,000 search results. Most of these people have an email attached to their LinkedIn account. This gives us an unlimited supply of leads. So what we're gonna do, it's really as simple as this. We're going to copy the search URL from the top bar, and we're going to go back into Appify. And I'm actually going to rent a new LinkedIn Sales Nav scraper just so that we can do it for $1. And we'll be using this new LinkedIn Sales Navigator search scraper because I can get a free trial. So we're going to paste that search URL right in here. Now, this is another important thing I wanted to show you. This LinkedIn cookie, it needs to use your account in order to do the scraping, and it needs the login information from your account without triggering any red flags. So here's exactly what you're going to do. You can click on this question mark, and it's going to bring you to a Chrome extension, edit this cookie. Some of them use this cookie editor. I'm going to go ahead and add to Chrome just to show you the example. Now go to your LinkedIn Sales Nav login session. Let's go to edit this cookie, and then we're going to copy the cookies to keyboard and come back in and paste it here. We're searching for people, not companies, because we want people's emails. We're going to start at page 1, and I actually want to deep scrape each profile in the search because I want their profile description. I want to know what they say because now I can use that information, run it through AI to come up with really awesome AI personalizations. So I'm going to click that on, even though it's going to make my scrape a lot longer. And let's go ahead and scrape 5,000 emails from LinkedIn Sales Navigator. We're going to use a residential proxy in the United States because that is where my LinkedIn account is from. We're going to go ahead and save those parameters and start this scraper. This one actually gives me a 3-day free trial. Now, because this specific scraper uses LinkedIn to log in and scrape through the LinkedIn account, you're going to want to monitor this one a little bit more closely to make sure that it's working. So let's come into runs and let's just make sure that all of our scrapes are doing well. This Instagram one has finished with 86 results, which is a great time to come in here and see how we can handle these results. It gives us a lot of ways to export this data: JSON, CSV, XML, Excel. I like using CSV files, and Appify will almost always give you an option to only export specific fields or to omit specific fields. Now this one only has 4 fields, but sometimes it's 40, and it can be way too much data. So I do recommend going through these and only selecting the data that you absolutely need. Now in just a couple clicks, I have a full data set here. First one here, Samuel. He is a personal growth and business coach. We've got his personal Gmail account right here. That's going to have 100% deliverability. And then if we wanted to grab his first name out of that, we can use something like Magic Sheets or an AI prompt to look at his Instagram description and pull his first name into a separate column. And if you want a free subscription to Magic Sheets, it's my favorite AI tool to interact with Sheets. Join my Insiders program and I'll give it to you for free this week only. Lifetime access, by the way. Now, while this is running, let's just have a look at some of these other scrapes that I've run in the past day alone. School member scraper. This will give me all of the members to specific school communities. Super powerful, although this one does not give you very many emails. The AppSumo scraper, unbelievable data here. Here we get a full list of the companies who are currently listed on AppSumo, most of which have email addresses so you can easily reach out to them. And for those of you that don't want to pay for LinkedIn Sales Navigator but still want to scrape LinkedIn, you can use a scraper like this to scrape profiles in bulk directly from here. So we're going to get profiles, and then we can add a list of keywords. So for example, I'm looking for founders and CEOs of lead generation software. I'm only going to scrape in the United States. Now, while those scrapers are working, let me give you what a lot of you are probably here for, which is scraping Apollo IO using Apify, which is one of the most powerful features of this tool. Apollo is one of the most scrapable B2B databases, and they do a really good job of keeping their data clean. Now, I actually have an enterprise plan with Apollo. We pay them a lot of money, so I'm not going to scrape them right now. But if you want to scrape this website, they actually make it pretty friendly to do so. So if you come to their pricing page, you can see that they actually have a free plan that lets you view email addresses for free. Now, the problem with this is you can only see up to 5 pages, which means you can only scrape up to 100 contacts at a time. And that's typically going to be okay for people who are just starting out and can't afford their $49 per month plan. But if you do upgrade to that plan, you can view many more pages and scrape tens of thousands of contacts on Apollo. Now, once you get inside, this is what it's going to look like. So you're going to come to this search function on the left-hand side. And just like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you're going to enter the specifications for the leads that you want to scrape. Make sure to check verified under email, and feel free to check likely to engage as well to use Apollo's data on who is likely to reply. Once you've got your filters set, just like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, we're going to grab that search URL. Now, similarly to LinkedIn, you're going to paste that URL here, and for the cookie, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to come into your login, you're going to come into Cookie Editor, and you are going to export as JSON. Paste that cookie JSON code right there in Cookie. I said you weren't going to have to write a line of code. I didn't say there would be no code. That's the only coding you'll have to do. Now, I'm also going to enter my email and password for my Apollo account because it is scraping from my Apollo account. I'm going to go ahead and leave these as is, but you can play with these to get different results with your Apollo scraping. We're going to use that residential proxy so it doesn't know your IP address as you're scraping, and you're going to go ahead and check those run options and save and start. And again, we get a free trial here. Now, one thing you'll notice here is that the more scraping jobs that I have running, this is all taking up RAM, taking up memory. So you'll see it start to run slower and slower because it's all fighting for the same processing speed. So what I recommend is if you're gonna do a lot of concurrent scraping jobs is to buy one of their higher tier plans. And just like that, we've scraped just about every major website that can be scraped. There hasn't been a single site that I have wanted to scrape personally that Apify could not scrape. So of course, anything that I actually use myself, I reached out to them, and Apify was kind enough to offer my audience 20% off any plan that you choose. So all you have to do to sign up and start trying this, and again, you can try it for free, head to the link down in the description, try Apify, get that 20% off code that you can use, and go and start scraping your leads. You should at least try this. Even if you're not going to rely on scraping for your long-term source of leads, because yes, it takes a little bit longer, it's less organized than subscribing to a B2B database. It is an invaluable skill that you can have when you need niche data, and we all need niche data. Using the same Apollo IO or LinkedIn Sales Navigator data that everybody else is using can dry up the results. So by being able to go to YouTube, to go to Instagram, to go to AppSumo and scrape those sites for niche data, you'll be able to reach people that nobody else is reaching with information that nobody else is using. So do yourself a favor, go to Apify and start scraping, start testing, start building these skills. And if you're looking for a service to sell, a lot of people need social media scraping. A lot of people want to scrape from LinkedIn. You can be that source for them if you get really good at this. I hope this was helpful. Go start scraping, go try Apify, and I will see you guys in the next video.